Thank you. So welcome everyone to this meeting of the Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee. As mentioned, this meeting is being recorded. And just if anyone else is recording it, just ask that they inform the chair at this time. Hearing none. We'll do introductions. I'll start. I'm George Tolumpsis. I'm the planning board representative to this committee. I'm the vice chair. And at the behest of the chair, I facilitate these meetings. We'll go around the table and then the screen.
Hi, I'm Francoise Att, and I'm a member of the public.
Nancy Hazard, general member.
John Garrett, city council representative.
Go ahead.
Amy Kaling, Community and Economic Development Department Chair, and at the request of Eric, I'm taking his seat on this committee.
Mary?
Mary Chickwin, I'm Chair of Sustainable Greenfield and a member of the public.
Jonah?
Jonah Keene, a member of the public.
So the next item is the approval of the August 2024 meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes for August. I'll second.
Very good. Any discussion?
Like the check boxes for committee members present. I think that's an elegant.
Well, thank you. I'm always striving for better graphics.
Any other compliments or comments? Edit?
We all showed up. You can keep going.
Hearing none. All committee members in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Great. Okay. Our main item of the evening is the continuation of the 2024 master plan recommendations review. Review of the Conway School recommendations of the updated natural, historical, and cultural resources chapter of the 2014 master plan. And the included in the minutes is the draft recommendations that have been requested. So Mary, I'll turn to you to see how you'd like to. I know you had said you didn't want to go through these. The plan wasn't to go through these line by line. That was the committee's agreement. But we would, I assume, go through them in order and see if anyone has comments or recommendations or questions.
Sounds perfect. And I will be, if Amy, if you want to share your screen so we can
Sure.
be working off the same document. And then I'll just be making notes here offline.
I'll just frame it that the, oh, yes.
I have a question and kind of a global comment. Is that okay before you get into the line by line?
Go for it.
Okay, so I would just say in general, I love the table and everything, and I love the clarity of the goals and the specificity of the action items. So I know that the Conway School had a section that was like the vision and the goals, a big picture, which we can't see here, but and maybe I could have found it, and this one the table starts with number 2, and I was curious if there's a number 1 or not.
Well, I
Yeah,
believe, oh, go ahead.
Just that we went over that at the last meeting. It was about establishing a standing open space committee.
I see, okay.
So we're just taking up where we left off last
Thank
time.
you, thank you. I'd forgotten what that item was. Thank you.
And as far as Nancy's first point about the larger scale overview stuff, because we're going through fine-grained implementation action. Those are the finest grained things in the master plan. And you were talking about the bigger picture stuff. And I was hoping also at the end of this exercise to touch on that. So can we wait till then to do that, if that's okay?
Yeah, I have a few more things that I'd love to do at the end. Thank you.
Okay, so the first natural, historic, and cultural resources, the second goal is increase urban tree canopy and expand urban green space. And the strategy is to increase the city's ability to plant and care for trees and make tree planting a regular part of city operations. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 implementation actions listed under there. Does anyone have any issues starting at the top of those 8 they want to raise, questions or comments?
One thing for the third item. So the update practices and procedures for sidewalk and street construction and replace to include street trees as a standard component. I think that's fabulous. My only concern is the potential of an area without a sidewalk, having a tree planted in the area where a sidewalk could go. And I'm thinking specifically by the John Zahn Center on, if you're looking north to the right of the building, there's a couple of trees planted in what used to be like, you can see it, like it was a sidewalk at some point. And that kills me, and not kills me, that's a little dramatic, but I would love to see a sidewalk there and a tree. And I would hate to see a sidewalk have to like take out a tree because there's not room otherwise. And so, you know, just if language could be added without precluding, you know, sidewalk installation, I think that would be fabulous. If you think that this is going to be already in there, I'm happy to leave it as it is. But that was the only thing, honestly, in the entire set of plans, basically, that I had a question about.
This is the third one you said.
Yeah.
I read it to say practices and procedures for sidewalk construction and or replacement.
Right.
So that presumes there's a sidewalk involved.
Right, but if in an area without a sidewalk that could have one. So again, I'm thinking like
I see.
on School Street, I think it's the name of the road. There's no sidewalk on the east side, but there is one on the west side. There should be someone on both sides, and I'm assuming the tree committee doing their good work planted 2 new saplings in what looks like a flat and graded area.
I don't think we did that.
No, maybe they did themselves, could have been the homeowners, you know? And so just that's the only thing I was thinking about. It's just like being aware that, you know, a tree can block the sidewalk.
So can I
Right.
suggest just adding a sentence that says something like, where sidewalks are not currently present, be sure to plant trees to not impede with future sidewalk placement or something like that.
If that's how the committee feels, I would love that. But yeah, that's the intention that I kind of my comment.
Yes, I was just wondering why do you want 2 sidewalks on the street if there's already one? Because impervious surface wise, it's kind of better to have only one.
It's accessibility wise. So if like, you know, you're somebody who is mobility impaired and you got to cross the street to get to the sidewalk, you choose not to walk, you choose to drive. And so as far as like sustainability is concerned, I think a network of, you know, pedestrian walkways basically is better than isolated sections.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And so that's really the
Not
thought.
on the same side though, if there's only one. Yeah.
Right, but it's, you know, again, this is a dense neighborhood, you know, it's the kind of thing where absolutely impervious surfaces are a thing I'm worried about, but I'm more worried about parking lots and less sidewalks. You know, again, that's just where I'm prioritizing kind of like, you know, the road itself could be narrowed, you know, and then made, and we could make that up with a sidewalk or something, you know. Thank you for the comment.
Are there any other comments on that suggestion or objection to including it? Hearing none. I know I had in the next one, number 4, I had a question about the tree warden serving, could be an entity not associated with the DPW. I had never thought of that before, and I was curious if there's precedent for that in other communities or where that came from. I'm just so used to the tree warden being a DPW employee. Do you remember where that?
George?
Yes, Mary. Yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely precedent for that. Primarily, it's with more affluent communities, but the intention, I think, with this recommendation that was, I think, also in the open space plan, if I'm not mistaken, maybe not. Anyway, the intention is that currently there's a person named as tree warden within the DPW. But because of such staffing constraints and everything, it's really not, there are no hours dedicated to that position. So whether it ends up staying as a DPW position or, you know, being a separate possibly part-time position that some other entity serves. The intention is just to have some dedicated hours toward the position of tree warden.
Okay, that satisfies me. Thank you.
Mhm.
And by the way, Jonah, we can only see Mary on the screen. So if you just speak up if you need to weigh in.
Will do.
And I had, if we move on to the next one, I also had a question regarding the tree ordinance and the issuing, collecting of fines. I wasn't sure how much there is in the way of fines that go along with the tree ordinance. I was just curious if anyone can clarify that. Oh, thanks for opening that.
Yeah, so I can clarify that. There are fines associated with people removing or otherwise harming trees in public rights of way and in parks and things like that. Both in terms of having to replace the tree and then also a monetary fine. And my understanding is currently there is no system in place for the issuing and collecting of fines. So there's really no way to do anything about, you know, when somebody cuts down a tree or whatever without any permission. So.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Going on to the next item there, I see it looks like there's been an edit put in by somebody, planted and.
Oh, sorry, that was me. I actually thought I was working on a copy that wasn't online. Yeah, that's
Sorry.
my suggestion for that one.
I wondered about that. Okay. So tracking those as well as ones that are removed. Anybody else comment on that or objection? Sounds good to me. Great. And then there's just one more in that section. Any comments or questions, or should we go on to 2.2? Great. So that's coordinate tree planting efforts by the city and volunteer groups in ways that are strategic and sustainable. And we have 4 implementation actions. Were there any reaction to these?
I love that there are approved trees. I find
Yes.
I will ask one on the first one, primarily native trees. That suggests that there would be cause for having non-native trees.
I can speak to that. The
Please.
crab apples are not native.
Okay.
Well, some of them are.
Are we planting any of the native crab apples? I don't think we are.
Yeah, I don't really know because I don't know what species are native, but they're all cultivars. So I think you'd have to find out what species the cultivars are being cultivated from. And I don't know who has that information, but I certainly don't.
And
There's one other tree that's not a native that's on the list, which is the ginkgo,
Mhm.
which I personally don't want on the list, but that the tree committee wanted on there, so
See one called the London plane tree, which I imagine is from London.
that's a hybrid.
Oh, it's not?
A native sycamore and a
Okay.
something else.
Basswood.
Huh.
A what?
You guys know
Linden?
so much more about trees than I do.
No, no,
London.
no,
London.
the sycamore.
But it's probably said Linden.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. All right, so I guess we're done with that goal. Next goal, number 3, acquire or otherwise conserve land deemed to be of critical importance to wildlife and or ecosystem services. And the first strategy is identify parcels of critical importance. We have 2 implementation actions proposed.
I had one question. In the lead department stakeholder, SGIC is listed. Should that be the OSTF? Or did you really intend it to be the SGIC?
Well, when this was written, there was no open space task force, so.
I wondered about that. So it should be the open space task force.
Sure.
I think it should be.
That's what that stands for. I was gonna ask, all the way down, thank you. Okay, so you're suggesting both of those items,
There's a bunch
that
of
would be
them.
changed, but for those two especially, in this section.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
All right,
I have a question about
please.
the first one, the develop a prioritized inventory, which says existing, and I'd like to know where one can find this inventory. If anybody knows.
Has it been done?
So
It says
it-
existing.
It means
Existing-
that implementation action item is existing.
Oh, it was
Not
already.
necessarily.
It's never.
Oh, darn. I thought, yay, it's done.
It may not have been accomplished, but it
Okay.
was previously, 10 years ago, it was recommended.
Okay.
It's evergreen. Fun.
Okay, so go on to the next strategy is develop the city's ability to conserve parcels of critical importance when opportunities arise.
So one comment I have on this, as I'm looking at the first action, set goals for land acquisition, et cetera, it seems like some of the, Jonah, I'd be interested in hearing what you think about this. Some of the work of the Open Space Task Force might be things that we bring back to the Sustainable Greenfield group for input, or I don't know, that approval is what we'd be looking for, but certainly for, you know, a conversation about what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Since we are a task force of SGIC. Yeah, I think all of these putting OSTF on makes sense. This is what we are planning to focus on.
Nancy, you have a comment?
Well, I agree with that. So maybe it just should be written OSTF/SGIC so that there's, starts with the open space people and then it comes through this committee. Does that make sense?
Is that
Yeah,
kind of
and
what-
actually, maybe what it is that we, the Open Space Task Force, maybe, requests to be on the Sustainable Greenfield agenda, once every 6 months or however often, just to kind of report back on what we're working on to keep people in the loop. Maybe that's how that works.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we have some bigger decisions that are being made, we could come with specific desire for something like approval or at least input.
Yes,
I just had a question about putting land trusts there, sort of as a global stakeholder. And it just felt a little different than the stakeholders we've identified in the past when we've had specific committees or entities. I'm all in favor of land trusts and think they're a great partner here. It just felt odd to me, so I didn't know what the thinking was there, or if that felt okay to everyone else.
Yeah, all the rest are government, right?
I think we
Okay.
recently talked about, trying to engage Franklin and Mount Grace land trusts. So if you want more specificity, I could put that in there.
No, I think it's fine. That helps. That's enough for me. I was just curious.
and you have a comment? Oh,
It was answered.
So there were 3 implementation actions there. Are those all set at this point? Any comments or questions? Moving on. 3.3. And I just noticed this says, must be a typo, land use 303.3 on the left there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Identify and protect existing wildlife corridors. And there were 3 implementation actions. Yes,
I would, on the third one, I would like to see the FERCog pollinator corridor plan be listed as a resource.
as part of the implementation act.
Um,
To reference
well, I
that.
guess when I was reading this, I was when you're creating the corridor protection zoning overlay district, I don't know, just I wanted to be sure that that was being considered, and maybe maybe I didn't read this correctly to. I agree that you have to make it and put it on our map as an overlay district. So maybe, let's see.
Can you add at the end? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Or would we look at the second, you're talking about the third one? It seems like the second one might be the appropriate fit.
Yeah, it
and
might
that-
fit better there. Mhm.
And then maybe it's at the end of that sentence, we include something like, considering existing plans such as the pollinator plan.
That would work for me. Thank you for that suggestion.
And I think we could always recommend a new implementation action if it won't squeeze into one of the existing ones. I think we could propose that at least. Is everyone satisfied with that?
The question of the first one,
Yes.
work with, yeah, land trust. And it mentions Green River and Millbrook. And Millbrook, I think the only Millbrook I know is the one that kind of goes underground, or is there another
That's
Millbrook?
Maple Brook. Yeah, I don't
Oh, yeah,
know.
where is Millbrook?
I don't know where Millbrook is.
Must be a tributary to the Green.
Yeah, it is. It's over by Silver Street there, connecting into the green. I'm not sure why that one is listed specifically when we have so many brooks and rivers.
Same here. I mean, I feel like some of the earlier recommendations are.
Can you say that again, Mary?
Yeah, so I'm not sure where these are called out, these specific things are called out. I would opt for keeping a little more general rather than picking and choosing.
Nancy?
Along those lines, how about saying along the Green River and its tributaries?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'll call myself. I know, Mary, when we were doing the original draft of the master plan, we had those same on the various chapter subcommittees, we had those same debates about specificity versus broad. And we tried to, kind of find a middle path where you had some things that were kind of clearly identified and were sometimes low hanging fruit, while also having the broader principles identified. But didn't want to be too vague, I guess.
Makes sense.
Are we ready to move on? Next goal, ensure that residents can access the town's parks, rivers, and water bodies for recreation.
Mead Street is, you know where Berkshire Gas is?
Yeah.
It's like the road that's behind, it
Oh, okay.
used to be a road, now it's kind of abandoned.
Okay,
Because it connects, I guess, I don't know if it's called
Oh,
River Street there,
I
it
see.
connects to Deerfield Street.
got it. Okay. Oh, I did not, and that's right behind, I'm looking at the map where Gary's.
Yes.
But
Huh.
it's been abandoned and now it's kind of completely taken over by
knotweed or something.
not weed, and so to walk through, it's like.
Oh, I had no idea that was even publicly accessible.
I'll call myself. I wanted to raise a question about the wording of the goal itself. This is talking about people being able to access parks, rivers, and water bodies. And it says for recreation. I know I might go to these places for contemplation
Mhm.
or for, various things. And I would recommend eliminating those last two words.
Mm.
And the issue is access, or however people want to use that space, write poetry here, So that would be my suggestion.
I think it's a great
I
suggestion.
like that.
Yep,
No objection? We have, okay, so the first strategy is increase community members' access to the Green River and Fall River
In between.
Okay.
Gill.
Thank you. And were there any other, besides the clarification about Mead Street, any other question? Yes,
The only thing I'm wondering, is it possible to actually fix the Green River swimming area? This has been a perennial kind of thing. It's like, feels like every year it's shut down for half the season. And I've been wondering about this for a while. Like, is there a study that's been done about ways to keep this thing from constantly being filled with E. coli or flooding or getting washed out? Or is it just like the nature of where it sits on the river? Like, do we know if there's ways, or have we?
well. Can I interject?
you can respond. sir.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, I think this meant more like the flooding of the road, but the bacteria issue is different,
Right.
right? It's if there's too many bacteria in the swimming area, that comes, it comes from upstream pretty
Right.
much.
Right,
I mean, if it was coming from right there and say, oh, well, people are pooping in this,
right,
whatever,
right.
but it most probably comes from upstream. It could even be, animals.
Sure. And because,
Yeah, so that's a hard one to,
yeah, I have no idea.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, okay.
And I assume the damaging aspect of the time was to the area itself too,
Flooding.
getting messed up and.
Mm.
Yeah. And then the next strategy is ensure just and equitable access to green spaces.
Could I make a comment on John's question?
Please.
Yeah, so I think that, to my knowledge, there has been no real comprehensive study about whether or not the frequent, flooding that happens in that area that washes away all the beach sand and requires, many, many hours of DPW staff to put it back together again. I don't know that there's been any comprehensive study on how things could be different there. It's just been kind of the status quo that each time it gets washed away, it gets fixed again.
Right.
It doesn't seem sustainable. So I think the suggestion is to look at what those kinds of sustainable options could be. I don't know if there are any or not, but in my mind anyway, keeping the status quo going is just a very expensive proposition, and it's not addressing the fact that the conditions are only going to continue to intensify.
Yeah, yeah, no, the financial piece I'm definitely worried about.
There is a study of the Green River and the flooding and everything. Yeah, you're familiar with it. So I don't know if you want to mention that specifically so that people know that it's there and don't forget.
And I don't know if we're talking, if it's the same one I'm
No, maybe.
thinking of, which the Open Space Committee, supported a proposal for, I think it was the Green River, maybe also the Deerfield. But the one you're talking about, is that one that's already being funded?
I'm talking about the one, I think it was instigated by Deerfield and had to do with flooding, and Nick Miller was the author of that.
Oh, yeah, so that's already been done.
Yeah, I'm just saying it exists. So just before we go off and do a whole nother study,
Right.
just know what's already out there. Is always handy.
Did it offer solutions, or it just described the problem?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it has certainly, well, it identifies the what caused the problem, that kind of thing. So
So does that result in any recommend changes? This,
It's up to you guys whether you think it's helpful to have that noted here so that it's not forgotten, or whether you're happy with it just being invisible and in some people's memories.
Well, can you say what the study is called? Or who, you know,
I could find that, the date and the name of it, if that's what, if people want to include it.
and it relates to the Green River swimming area, you saying?
Yes, it relates to that, but also other places in Greenfield.
Okay, but just it would fit,
Infrastructure is, yeah,
it would fit in that.
it could fit here, yeah.
That's, yeah.
However, this says explore more low maintenance site design. Well, unless the site is large, I mean, usually the problem also
It's upstream, yeah,
upstream, so
that's
you would
right.
need to do some kind of, you know, real geomorphological work. But I don't know if it's important to change the wording.
I'll get the name and date of the study and then we can decide what to do with it. You might want to glance at it or something and then be clear about what it is that it's offering.
So we can make a note
You
to,
have, one that the rec department did. Is
okay, great.
another study?
No, it's not the red cloud, it's,
But do you know about another study that we should be aware of?
well, it's been, it was a proposal, so it hasn't been funded yet.
I see. Thank you. Okay.
Can I ask one nitpicky question?
Please.
The word more is bothering me there. Do we need it? It makes me suggest there were other design options, but we want either more of them or ones that are more low maintenance. And if we just want low maintenance site design, do we need to say more?
It's not even clear what that means.
I feel much.
It's not even if it's additional or I'm okay with removing it. Anyone object to removing more? Nope. All right. Less is more.
Low maintenance is.
Okay, next strategy, ensure just and equitable access to green spaces. There are two current implementation actions. Any comments? Yes.
The first one, it says assess where those things are. And my question was, so what are you going to do with that assessment? Should we say something about that?
I feel like the next one.
well, I think it's the next thing that, the next action item that says what to do with that information.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't say it explicitly. I mean, we could tack on to the second one, you know, especially for in areas that are lacking that it doesn't say it quite in those words.
Quick question. Can somebody just refresh me on what environmental justice community means? I know that poverty is an element in it.
It's a certain percentage of BIPOC households
Okay.
at a certain percentage of which are at a certain poverty level, income level,
And is this a federal or a state metric?
federal.
Federal. Thank you.
I want to, since these two existing implementation actions refer to something being within walking distance essentially, I want to suggest a third implementation action there is to expand access to parks, green spaces, and recreation facilities via public transport.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, it would be, what I put under lead Department of Stakeholders, collaborate with the FRTA to increase availability and awareness of such transportation options. So.
Can you say all of that again, please, George?
Sure, the action is expand access to parks, green space, and recreation facilities via public transportation. And they didn't really have worked out who would be the lead stakeholder, but the purpose would be to collaborate with FRTA to increase the availability and awareness of such transportation options.
Is that a second sentence in the same?
That's kind of what yes, I guess so. That makes more sense, yeah.
Increase
But I'm not
awareness.
sure who the implementation would be, or the stakeholder or lead department. I don't know if anyone has ideas.
Public transportation is not directly controlled by the city, but the executive branch has a voice on FRTA's board, right? So that's like,
Eric's the chair, actually. Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
there you go. So Eric.
that's good.
That's interesting.
There until this happens.
Great. So no objection to that addition? Sense it?
Nope.
Okay.
Can I, just one quick thing on the second one, the prioritize development within environmental justice. Can you add, community and economic development department as this department? Only because we can sometimes get CDBG funds to fit there.
Great.
Yeah, I'm trying to, is your abbreviation just economic? I can't remember how I have
It's
you in.
CEDO, how do you have me here? I
I
don't
have you
remember
in,
either.
I have you in as economic, but I'd be glad to change
You
that.
can, whatever.
And under the lead department stakeholder, I don't think it would be planning. It happens to be Eric right now. Eric's the person who's, but it's not necessarily the town planner who's on the FRTA board. So you might put FRTA advisory board rep.
Mm.
I think that makes sense.
Sorry. I wanted to go back to the first action, just, was it Nancy who was asking about,
Yep.
you know, what to do with it? Essentially, I think we could say what this says, and then for the purpose of developing a prioritized list or something, prioritized list of needs or something to that effect. Unless people think that these two are okay to go together and we don't need that clarification.
Or you could just put based on above assessment or something like that, just so it's clear
I
that.
like it.
I know in some, I don't think we want to do this necessarily, but in some community, I think in New York, they have a goal that everyone lives within 10-minute walking distance of a green space. I mean, it's like, what?
That's a great goal.
It is a great goal. I mean, I don't know if it's realistic for us, but do we, I guess that's the question, do we want a goal?
Well, the goal would be at the goal level, right?
Amy?
I actually wonder, I know you just changed it, if we even need the first one, assess, I mean, whether or not they are within walking distance in those neighborhoods, don't we want them to have improved parks, green spaces and facilities? So can we just say prioritize development or improvement of parks, green spaces, blah, 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 without assessing whether folks in that area are within walking distance?
I think we
Or
need,
do we still want to
we need
assess?
to assess it. I think you need to create a map and say, you know, here's the green spaces, and then decide where you're going to focus.
I agree with that.
Josh?
Just another thought on this. If we're gonna keep the assessment and we're thinking about, you know, what Nancy just suggested about having potentially a goal of having everybody have access. The second item has environmental justice in it already. We could just simply assess whether residents in general are within walking distance of parks and green spaces. And that would be kind of a more general goal, even though once we have that information, we're going to prioritize environmental justice neighborhoods. Does that make sense? And then because it's just about data, right? Like we're going to do the thing where we try to promote access for folks that are in those communities, but I would like to know if, you know, everybody just in general has access, you know?
I think that's a good idea.
But then what about people who are living, you know, out on Coleraine Road, or, you know, who are not in the more,
Urban,
you know,
yeah.
densely populated areas?
I mean, would that count as access to green space? I guess then it becomes a question if we're defining it, you know, differently. Like, but if you have 2 acres, you know, in the middle of one of those areas, I would argue that you have green space and kind of a lack of access to other, you know. I'm not wedded to the idea, just a thought.
Is anyone else wedded to the idea?
I know.
I like for this particular strategy and action item, having environmental justice in both
Okay.
1 and 2. I'd be open to adding a box 4 for everybody.
I suspect that when we do this, we'll find out about everybody anyway.
Okay, so we ready to move on? Next, goal. And just to inform the group, we have, we're about halfway there of, stuff we're supposed to cover and a little past halfway in our time. Got about 20-something minutes left. Number 5, conserve and restore Greenfield's rivers, wetlands, and other water bodies. And then the first, strategy is restore native vegetation around rivers and connectivity river habitats where possible. And there's 4 existing implementation actions. Regarding the first one, I just wanted, I'll call it myself, where it says remove or partially remove the Wiley Russell Dam. Boy, I know that's a hot potato. And I know it's been a real debate between folks that are conservation focused or folks that are historic focused. Historic Commission, I think, is weighed in pretty heavily on this. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I assume a lot of us are aware of that, but I just wanted to make that point. If we want to recommend this be part, that specifically be part of this implementation action.
I have a question about that. So it says remove or partially remove. My question is, does partially remove meaning that the part that's not removed would serve a purpose like electricity generation? Or then,
If I remember the conversation correctly, I think there was some, the partially removed refers to perhaps retaining elements that have historical value. To say, you know, this thing was here, but to open the river up to free flow.
Oh, you're gonna say, yeah, I do see the statement about explore ways to memorialize the neighborhood's industrial heritage beyond or apart from the dam. So I see that's kind of a acknowledging the historic concerns. So is there anyone who is everyone comfortable with leaving that in?
yes.
I'm not saying I'm not, yes, Jessica.
So I teach high school history, and so I have very strong feelings about history in general, but also historic preservation. It becomes sometimes a tool to preserve things in amber. And I would just ask if the historical commission's against this, like, why are we prioritizing the history of industrialization and ignoring the natural history of this land that exists for 10,000 years? You know, those kind of things. So I really do not love historical preservation arguments that keep us from making changes. And again, it's partially because of my job, you know, and so I hear it a lot from folks, you know, I see, you know, historic preservation happening. And yeah, the goal, we live in a society, so.
Yep, and this will be, go out for public reaction and stuff, so we'll see what people, and just a technical thing under the stakeholder section. I think every time we have OSTF, we're gonna add SGIC, is that right? So just throwing that out there. Okay, the other, anything else in that one or the other 3 implementation actions? Going once?
It's just suggesting adding the word in plant after the word invasive in the second one, because it just says for invasive removal.
Thank you.
What was that? I didn't catch that, sorry.
The pink word up on there,
Oh,
plant, has been adding.
okay,
It didn't read right.
Thank you.
Typo.
thank you. Okay, no objection to that. Okay, the next strategy. Continue to protect wetlands and educate people about their importance. Is it about the people's importance? No, I'm just kidding.
Good point.
These are wetlands and you're important too. So there's 3 items there listed.
say, educate,
What was that?
edu- impart their importance to people. I don't know, that's just
Oh, I was
wordsmithing.
I was kind of kidding. And I could have laughed, so it worked. But I had a question on the second one. I was just interested about, no, I guess that makes sense, but we didn't have a lead department or stakeholder. Would that be OSTF perhaps? Or?
Maybe the rec department?
I was gonna say rec department feels like.
Yeah, that's
assign
what I would
people.
say as well.
OSTF doesn't have a budget.
Okay,
Well, I mean, but some of those things are not recreation areas, are they? What's Sunrise Avenue, remind me?
That's right by, the area where the new land trust.
Oh,
development's going
okay.
on.
and this wouldn't be a Concom kind of?
I think Conservation Commission should be on there as well.
I agree.
Oops, Shelburne is that misspelled?
I was wondering about that. I don't know if that's an old timey name for the conservation area. Like, the old summer, you know, what's that?
Don't know.
It's Google.
Do we move on while the Googling is happening?
Very changed.
The next strategy, develop a plan for ecological restoration of Highland Pond, one implementation action. No, it's just talking about ascertaining, so,
Yeah, there's a berm. There's a berm there and a pipe that goes through the dam.
anybody about that single? No. Next, strategy is protect Greenfield's drinking water supply. And again, we need, lead department or stakeholder in both those.
Wouldn't it be the planning board?
Planning.
Is it BMP?
Hmm?
BMP in the second?
Best-
one?
Best management practices.
Thank you.
Join the lingo world.
Alphabet soup, you know, every discipline's got it.
I know.
So the first implementation action is work with the planning board, and the planning board would be the lead department, so be working with itself to, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of figure out the-
Hey, that's the logical mistake there.
So would this be exclusively planning board? I'm trying to picture us doing this.
There. Mary's adjustment makes it
Oh.
read better, I think, without including
So we
them.
have static PDF.
Top.
Oh,
Seems like the Conservation Commission as well.
Wait, you need to go up,
No, it's at the very.
it's 36, I think.
Oh, that makes
No, she
sense.
just
Yeah.
changed that, yeah, this.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
Okay, great.
Is this Conservation Commission as well?
Maybe. And I guess the same for the same group for the second. You just gotta duplicate that, right? Okay. Ready to move on to the sixth and last goal, which is conserve Greenfield's agricultural lands, support its farming community, and develop its status as a food hub. And the first strategy is continue to work with landowners to conserve prime farmland and working farms. I had one question that applies to a few of these is land for good. I've never heard of. I don't know what that is.
It's a great organization, an NGO that specifically works on succession and that sort of thing, land succession.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or suggested changes for those three implementation actions? And or?
I'm thinking, and so the thing that's coming to mind is the whole conversation around cluster development stuff. And so zoning strikes me as a potential tool here. You know, we have land use choices in the meadows, you know, that include not using it as farmland. And so I don't know if it would be an overlay district over the land that we don't want to see developed or what it might look like. But I do wonder if that's a potential tool that isn't on this list. I have no doubt that would be a heavy lift to do and to identify land and all that. But that's where my face was doing whatever it was doing, was coming from.
Oh, it's your hand.
Yeah, my, I was.
Along those lines, I was really, and I'm not sure if it fits right here, but I was really inspired. A couple of weeks ago, I guess I read the newspaper that Deerfield had set an aspirational goal that 100% of their farmland and their meadow areas, whatever, would be protected. And so I wondered if we wanted to do something that was, you know, somewhat simpler, like let's see, maybe keep all farmland as farmland, or which that would be the positive way of saying it, or no farmland is lost, or something that is a.
Where would you suggest that's going, Nancy?
Because this strategy is about working with landowners.
Right. Well, okay, keep that in the back of your mind and because Georgia talked about at the end of this whole thing, maybe bring up some other big pictures thing. So I'll throw it out there for the moment.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the next, I don't know if this, what you're talking about would fit in this, but the next strategy, ensure a robust local support system for farmers, includes multiple venues for conversations about financial stability and sustainability, retirement/succession plans, and programs that support agriculture such as Chapter 61 and APR.
So,
Please, I'm sorry.
so the first one, ensure the Ag Commission is focused on supporting farms and food processing. And I was like, how do we ensure what they do?
Yeah, that's similar to, I flagged that too. That's similar to, you know, work with the planning board kind of thing, because the AgCom is listed as a stakeholder.
Right.
So they're ensuring they're doing what they're supposed to do. So I would eliminate that first phrase.
I mean, they are supposed to do that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we support farms and food processing businesses, but is that what you mean?
Yes, essentially, yeah.
That feels like a fair.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that we shouldn't do that. I'm just gonna say that it seemed like a pretty weak goal or weak action. Like there's no how.
You're suggesting we may not need it at all? Is that what you said?
It feels to me so broad as to not have much meaning as an action item.
But I think it may be, it's been a couple of weeks since I've looked at this. Yeah, I guess some of this, the food processing businesses is covered in the next set of action items.
Yep.
And so I think that's actually okay to make that go away, because we're trying to support farmers in the next action item.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine with that going away if other people are.
My only objection is if that goes away, then I don't think we have an implementation action item that includes multiple venues for conversations about financial stability and sustainability, retirement succession plans, blah, blah, blah. None of the other things in that seem to actually do that.
What if we took that language and put it into that action item? That,
Oh, look at you getting fancy.
Where are we?
6.2.
support farms by,
That might, Nancy, what do you think about that idea?
I'm not sure I understood where you were going with that, but are you trying to shorten the
The strategy.
the strategy and make some of that the implementation?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, that sounds like a great idea.
supporting farms.
So it would basically be ensure a robust local support system for farmers, period.
Period.
Yeah.
Right. And then the first implementation item could be support farms and food processing
Mhm.
businesses in Greenfields, including whatever Nancy just deleted.
By ensuring.
And I don't remember.
And used for conversation with fiscal
There you go.
sustainability, retirement, succession plans, chapter
I like that.
61,
Yeah,
and whatever APR is.
great.
Agricultural preservation restrictions.
Messed up, but I believe it's important.
Okay, yes,
On the third one, install signs.
yes.
So the Ag Commission is currently doing it, so I don't know if we need to just remove it because it's being done.
I have the same, it's in their minutes for their September meeting. It says they're in the process of purchasing those.
I always like a checklist. that
I
you
was
start
gonna
with.
It's not a good reason to take it out of here.
Until the sign is in the ground, I
Yeah.
feel like
All right,
keep it there.
that's a nice way to have something checked off soon. Great.
Exactly.
And we need, you know, blank on the right hand lead department column for the next one. Agricultural, this is an agricultural overlay district.
This,
I don't know, Nancy, if that could incorporate what you were talking about.
No, that's different from what percentage of ag land is going to remain ag land. That's a whole different idea.
Okay. No, I didn't know if that could be tweaked to
Mm,
incorporate that. Yes, I'm sorry.
to incorporate that idea, you just add and preserve farmland at the end of it.
But I wanted the aspirational goal.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
So maybe it's just, it's a standalone
Mhm.
statement.
That was all 6.2, yes.
But I don't have it on my file. I must have deleted it.
I'm looking at the minutes.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes allotted. Should we move on? 6.3, support food processing and distribution industries within Greenfield. 3, implementation actions, no lead departments or stakeholders.
These feel all like economic development as a lead department, although I recognize for number 2, I'm working with myself then, but
Right.
The GBA also strikes me.
Yes.
Especially the first two,
That who?
the Greenfield Business Association.
Oh, okay, thank
I
you.
think they could be all 3.
Yeah.
And the first, oh, sorry,
Yes, go
are
ahead.
we on 6? I'm on 6.4, sorry, no, I'm good on.
Anything else on 6.3? Are we all set for the, great. 6.4, work with neighborhood groups to identify town-owned land that could be used for additional community food and flower gardens. Yes.
So community development could be at least definitely the first one.
The first one I think is also is done by the garden club.
Yeah. And is done by GBA.
And the second one, we put somebody in? No.
We put economics development in.
Okay,
Okay, we'll learn about egg shares.
great.
You could add, that last one, you could, as a stakeholder, you could add what do they call now, the Greenfield the chicken community?
I
What's
don't
that?
know.
It's horrible.
Say that again?
I don't remember what they're called now, but because it used to be the Greenfield Egg Share Co-op, but they changed their name to Chicken Community, and I don't know if that's the only two words, but
Why don't you send it to me,
yeah. I
Francois?
will.
I think it's better to keep it generic because that group may go away and a different group might come up.
Or we might change the name again.
But just, be sure that there's poultry, that possibility.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I know that there's definitely somebody on the Ag Commission who's very interested in that last one.
Mhm.
Oh, please add Ag Commission.
Yeah.
And there's a
Great
reason
idea.
we wouldn't in the first one put garden club, since we know that's an established practice of theirs.
Are they doing that now?
No, they haven't for quite some time,
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that they won't again.
there's pictures on their website, that's why.
Oh, well, maybe you should write their name down and maybe they'll rise to the occasion.
Okay, and I apologize because on my printout, there was no goal 7.
Oh, no.
No, not on mine either.
Mine didn't go that far.
Oh, was
That's
that?
correct.
Oh,
So the plan was to divide our final work into 2 sections. The
Oh.
piece we just finished, and then one more piece for next time.
oh.
And
forgot
George,
that.
I'll just say that I remember that, George commented on, oh, there's only one goal for, the cultural piece. So I had made a homework item for myself to go back and look at the previous plan to see if anything was missing. So I can do that and then send out the final chunk to be
Okay.
reviewed at the
Mhm.
Excellent. So I was thinking this was I forgot we're splitting that. So I was thinking this is the end of our work on this, so I can hold off till next time, my bigger picture questions. And I don't know, Nancy, if you can as well, or?
Yeah, well, certainly cultural life, yes. And will there be a historic section also?
I think this is, I took a quick look at the 2014 plan, and it was pretty slim in the cultural and historic, but I will take
Well,
a
but
close.
there was I looked at that this morning also, and that's where my big questions came up.
Okay.
And yeah, so if you could look at that before the next time, that would be great.
I will do
And
that.
also the question about recreation. I know it's in the existing open space plan, but it was in the 2014 also the master plan, stuff about recreation.
Within the natural, cultural, and historic. Cool.
Yeah, this was the only place in the master plan where recreation was integrated into it. And because I remember advocating that they needed to add that word because it's the only place it showed up and it was buried.
So maybe not just you, Mary, but all of us should look through the natural, historic, and resources original chapter. And
Yes, it's like because I printed that this morning. It's in the second goal. And then there's, some implementations about it. And then this is a little different, but there were a lot of words about health and well-being and healthy living and recognizing that
I don't know if you can.
the town identity be recognized for its open space and its beauty and all that stuff. I would just love to see that incorporated somehow and not lost. So old.
Are those goals, or I'm not sure what you're talking about?
When I was looking at the summary page of the 2014 thing, those words jumped out at me. And I love all the nuts and bolts approach of what we're doing here, but I felt like there's something, the heart is missing somewhere that I wanted to see there. And maybe it's in the Conway project, the big goal statement, which we don't have in front of us right now. So maybe it's all there, but I just felt like when I read through the goals here, the things like, well, recreation had healthy living and all that, that kind of language attached to it. And so health and well-being, et
So
cetera, et
that
cetera.
sounds like a bigger picture view as well.
Could be. So, but the question is, I want it someplace. So when you're thinking about getting ready for the next meeting, those are my comments. Those are my thoughts, my dreams, and then this thing about the ag land, which we didn't quite resolve, about,
Yes,
Aspirational.
where it goes.
Jonah,
What?
Aspirational goal.
The aspirational goal, right?
Jonah?
Yeah, sorry, my brain's firing a little slow today, but I'm realizing that the last one, and maybe we just, I think we're over time here, but maybe just if we're coming back to this next time, that last one is not making sense to me, 6.4. And the strategy doesn't really line up with the implementation action. So I don't know if we can have that as our starting point. But the strategy is work with
Great idea.
neighborhood groups to identify land, and then those two action items seem quite different from what that's
Yep.
saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Thank you. Boy, you got a lot done.
Mhm.
Okay, you got enough, Mary, to,
Yeah, I do. I
next
think
time?
that I'd like to propose that I will come back to the committee with the material that we're going to work on for the next time. So I'll pull in as much as I think makes sense to pull in from the cultural, historical, and whatever the other one is, natural sections. I think it's just the cultural and historical. And then folks could bring comments and additions to the next meeting. Would that work? I just can't see all of us trying to cob together things at the next meeting. And it would be easier to start with something.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Very good, okay. So the next agenda item is public comment. And any members of the public who are here want to comment? Pausing in case you're trying to unmute.
Hi, are you taking public comment right now?
Yes, Stephanie, yep.
Hi, Stephanie Duclos, Chapman Street. I'm really happy to see a lot of these things that you guys put in. I have a vast history with Greenfield, so if there's anything you guys have questions on about some of those historical places that maybe are no longer known about, or maybe signs got damaged and never replaced in those areas, feel free to reach out. I'm more than willing to help. And thank you for letting there be public comment today.
Great, thank you. And there's one other member of the public I see. And just pausing in case you want to jump in. But wanted to put you on the spot either. Okay, so next we have announcements related to sustainability. Members of the committee. Yes, Nancy.
Yes, at the last meeting, you asked me to bring more detail back about the energy workshop, which I talked about at the last meeting. And so at the very late date this morning, I emailed something to Mary for distribution. I don't know if it got out or not, but I have an update in my hand, so I don't know. Did you, some of you
I'm looking
maybe
at
have
it.
seen it and some haven't seen it. So we have a date, which I'm thrilled about, and it's not tomorrow, it's a little ways off, which was lovely. So it's the 18th of November. We will be at John's On. Thank you so much, Amy, for arranging for that. And I just heard actually this afternoon that in addition to SGIC co-sponsoring, that FERCog will co-sponsor. So that was really exciting. And we will have a short speaker Not sure who that's going to be, but perhaps Allison Gage. I hope that she agrees to do that. And then that will be followed by speed dating from the vendors. And then people will be invited to circulate and chat with the different vendors because it's such a complicated topic. And we've invited people who do different income levels, like community action, the folks that are handling the new Massachusetts Energy Saver Home Loan Program, Mass Save, et cetera. Home performance contractors, solar and weatherization businesses, heating and cooling contractors, and sponsoring organizations. So FERCog will have a table and Greenfield will have a table. And if SGIC would like a table, please do so. And GCTV has agreed to video and to do pre-promotion and post-promotion. So it's coming together
Nice.
Great.
finally. Thank you for your support and
I just wanted to respond. I wanted to double check. As I recall from last month, I don't have the minutes, draft minutes in front of me, but that we had held off officially indicating that we would sponsor or co-sponsor this event.
yeah, I'm not sure of the wording, but yeah.
We hadn't made a decision as a group, is what I'm saying, that I recall. So I just wanted to, that's all we're listed as a co-sponsor on your draft, so.
So if you need to bring it up and verify that that's the case, that would be wonderful.
Well, I just think that's, yeah,
I
just
think
be
you should,
respectful of the
if you-
process, yeah.
Mhm.
We did not take a vote on sponsoring or co-sponsoring the event because we felt there was not enough information. And, given that we didn't receive the written information until this morning, I don't know if we feel comfortable taking a vote on it this time.
Okay, we have time in October.
I feel comfortable. I mean, it seems pretty simple to me, but
I'll say, you were saying something, John.
I didn't raise my hand. I apologize, but I would rather do the vote in October just for the sake of what George mentioned, the process, although I'm totally in favor of it. If we could just put it on the agenda, be like, hey, are we willing to sponsor it?
Yeah. Yes.
It would be very helpful to have it now because we're about to send out the invitation to the
fair.
vendors, and I'd really like to be able to say that these are the supporters.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just say I'm in between those two things because I want to really respect public process. And, we are not supposed to be ideally deciding on something that hasn't been able to be put on the agenda as a decision-making item.
Correct.
And I know we had a heads up about this. And I know everybody's working hard and it's not to chastise anybody. It's just, respecting process, and it's we're the public's, group, and just want to have everything be as transparent and follow the rules as possible. In this instance, because it had been discussed last time and recognizing the impact, I'd be okay with voting to approve that with just one clarification about, there was a question, if we're sponsoring this, does it count as a meeting? Do we have to have a quorum? That question came up, and I don't know if that got resolved by anybody.
Well, that was what I mentioned last time, is that when we co-sponsored the Conway School event, we were told we had to have a quorum. We were told this by the mayor's office.
just because we were co-sponsor, that was a little bit more of our event, it seemed.
Yeah.
That's true.
What if we just put pending next to it or something like that on the invitation, like FERCog is on this? Would that serve the goal, Nancy, or?
How do you feel? You've been working with me on this.
I was gonna say, is the hang up, setting aside the timing issues, sponsored versus like supported by? And could we just do a language supported by Sustainable Greenfields? I mean, this feels like something we would all be supportive of, but it's a little less formal, and I don't know if that's enough of a language nuance to remove the public meeting concern.
Sure.
I
Well,
see some
my-
nods and thumbs up. Yes,
Yeah,
Mary.
my feeling as the chair is that it would have been good. Obviously, we didn't get it in time to put it on the agenda, but I think, to your point, George, to follow the rules, make sure we're doing things the way we should be. This should have been an agenda item. It's fine to have it in the announcements and make the announcement that it's happening, but it doesn't seem like the right place or process to be making a vote on something.
Okay.
And with that,
Yes,
I
Jonah.
with that,
Oh,
I
you
have
have
to
to go.
sign off and go
All
to, go to open house. Thanks, folks.
Hi, Jonah.
We still do have.
Are we gonna lose quorum if you?
Nope, we still have quorum.
Okay,
But Amy's
okay.
counting. Oh, you
Good night.
know it.
No, no, that's okay. Tell me how you really feel.
Okay, so it's kind of awkward and recognize, Nancy, your preference to be able to just have it be cleanly stated and stuff like that in the invitation, but it's just, I guess it's a lesson learned about process and just
And what about the thought of it being supported by? Is that something people are comfortable with or not comfortable with, or would that make a
Same.
difference or not make a difference, or?
To me, it seems like the same thing.
John?
I would be perfectly happy just to abstain and have you guys vote because of my concern. Like, I like the idea and I don't want to, hamstring the event. And, everything I said before I said.
Yes.
No, go ahead.
I would suggest you can always, as you're getting close to the event, you're going to be sending out other invitations, reminders, stuff like that. And if we have this on the agenda for next time, that could be added on there.
Okay.
But I think the basic idea is whatever the wording, we're not supposed to be making a decision on something like this that unfortunately didn't get to us in time to put on the agenda for, it can seem like a technicality, but just trying to honor process. Yes.
Well, here's looking to the future, thank you for thinking about this, is that a lot of meetings that I go to has a sentence at the very end of their agenda that says that they're going to take on other items which you couldn't foresee, or whatever the expression is. Like the Concom has that, and
Right. No, I think that's standard.
so maybe it's something this committee would consider wanting to add.
We have that.
Excuse me?
We haven't.
Oh, you have that sentence?
Oh, just say that.
Please note that the list of topics was comprehensive at the time of posting. However, the public body may consider and take action on unforeseen matters not specifically named in this notice.
And I thought of that too before the meeting, but this was foreseen. Because we got a heads up last month that it was going to be coming. So,
I was surprised that it wasn't on the agenda, frankly. And then I talked to Mary and said, well, what should I do about it? And or maybe I suggested that the best place would be under announcements, because I could see that the agenda wasn't on the agenda.
yeah, gotcha.
I didn't know that it should be on the agenda, and we didn't talk till this morning, Nancy, so there was no way I could change the agenda the same day as the meeting.
I think I know what will be on the agenda for next month. So hopefully that'll be, some help for the final,
That'll
Get
still
the
be
word
4
out.
weeks out. That'll be still almost 4 weeks before the actual gathering, so still good for
Okay.
time.
Well, the absolute, to be perfectly honest, the absolute thing that I needed, I already have. So that you've secured the space for me.
Okay,
So thank you
great.
very much. Because I couldn't do that.
Okay. Are there any other announcements people have? Okay, and the next meeting is going to be October 24th. Same time, same place.
Nancy.
And we know one of the topics, yes, Nancy.
I'd like to put out an agenda item in particular. about the Green Communities. I recently went to a Green Communities webinar about the climate leader community designation. I know that Carol is working on it. And there's some roles that I think we should talk about it at some point. So whether maybe checking in with Carol and find out whether she'd be ready. And to find out whether you want to talk about this at the next meeting or the meeting after was, that's the end of my sentence. So this has
At the beginning of it?
this has to do with the climate leadership program.
Yep.
And one of the requirements is, having a committee. So I thought it'd be good to talk about it and learn more about it and what the needs are. And whenever you're ready to do that, I was on the webinar and I learned some details about it. And so up to you to work with our chair and decide if you want to do it next month or the month after, whenever you want to do it.
Thank you for repeating.
Thank you. Any other?
Being here.
I can't see you. And if I,
Oh, God.
Any-
I'm thrilled.
Any other topics people have in mind for next month?
yes. May I? What's it called? Well, this is why I'm here to talk to Nancy, but the Mass Save Community First Partnership. I feel like it's finally time maybe to do some outreach that can be productive and effective, which has been a very long overdue, and I'm wicked excited. I think that there's a lot of other things that,
Yeah, we were just talking about the workshop which Greenfield is organizing, and that unfortunately I didn't get the thing out the door early enough to get everyone to okay it, but anyway.
okay.
But there may be some other things that this committee would like to do. So you're putting that on the agenda for next time, maybe?
Yeah, and by then we'll have more.
Yeah, okay,
Fleshed out.
sounds good.
You got that, Mary? What you need? That, yes, please, ma'am.
So could I please ask that Carol or Nancy send me the things that you're talking about at least 2 weeks in advance so I can get them on the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. If there's no other topics in mind, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So
moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Coming and
All
going.
committee members in favor? Aye, it's unanimous. All right, Mary, feel better?
Thanks, George.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.